Alrighty guys, let's talk episode number 3 of Creature Commandos. This is going to be a full spoiler discussion as always, and so just giving you a couple more seconds. If you have not seen the episode, no worries, just make sure to save the podcast, save the episode, save this segment for later, and come back once you have, or if you don't care about spoilers, then welcome. We are going to be talking full spoilery detail. Let's get into episode 3 of Creature Commandos, and these little spoiler discussions are a little bit shorter than the other, shows that we're doing. Like Penguin, we did pretty long recaps, and Skeleton Crew even. I think there's a lot more to talk about in Skeleton Crew, even though those episodes are also kind of short. But these episodes, right, Creature Commandos, about 22 minutes. These are sitcom length episodes, which is interesting. It's interesting. Now, I talked about, for a few months, when the first couple of trailers came out for Creature Commandos, I talked about the fact that I wasn't that excited about the show because I thought this looks like James Gunn just doing James Gunn to the max. And some people, were really excited about that. And I and that's not to say, by the way, that, it means that I dislike James Gunn's style, because again, I look favorably upon the 3 Guardians of the Galaxy films. I think they're pretty good. And I really like the Suicide Squad. I really like Peacemaker. But James Gunn in the comic book movie space has had a style, right? And this is the 6th project in the comic book movie space that he's done. And they've all been increasingly more and more the same, I feel like. So, I wasn't that excited for Creature Commandos, but I was like, you know what, James Gunn, I like Peacemaker a lot. I like Suicide Squad, his version of Suicide Squad a lot. I was like, maybe this will just be a really good version of that. Now, I watched the first 2 episodes, and obviously it's hard to tell because we've only seen 2 episodes, but I came out of the first 2 episodes going, no, this is about exactly what I expected. It's just James Gunn doing James Gunn. And for sure, if you attach yourselves to the characters and you enjoy what's going on, then it's a recipe for success in my book. But for me personally, the first 2 episodes, it was a little bit hard for me to get emotionally attached to these characters, because it's almost like, because the whole meta narrative of, I understand now James Gunn's style of, you got to make every single character try to be sympathetic, and that's always a good thing, but it's becoming a little bit more formulaic now, I feel like. And that's why, again, I've talked about this before, I'm very excited for Superman, because I think that that's him doing something very different. But I think that the first 2 episodes were like, no, I can see James Gunn's formula is too strong of a word, but his stylistic impulses in full force here. And so I was like, yeah, it was fine. The first 2 episodes are fine, I think. And so heading into episode 3, I was like, I don't know what to expect, because I feel like it's gonna be James Gunn, if nothing else, is consistent. So this show is unlike the MCU shows, for example, where I'm like, next episode could be really good or it could be really bad. I feel like these episodes are gonna be about the same in quality. And yeah, this episode was fine. It was okay. So it looks like the structure of this show is going to be every single episode is basically a flashback episode to one of the members of the Creature Commandos, with also little bits of the present timeline going on, which is fine as long as it wraps itself up in a way where you actually, then you're supposed to care about these characters enough that at the end you're like, oh, okay, if things happen to them, then I'm on board. Unfortunately for this episode, they killed off G.I. Robot at the end of the episode where they were trying to make him sympathetic, and I was like, well, okay, so is that the formula now? We're just going to kill off every character that we see in coming episodes? I don't know. Because honestly, I think G.I. Robot's backstory is interesting. I don't know if it was all that sympathetic at all. It was just interesting. So that when he died, I was like, I don't feel any sympathy for you. I just don't. You killed Nazis. That's literally his entire personality. And we don't really, we get hints of him wanting human connection and easy company, which I suppose we'll talk more about in light of the whole Sergeant Rock movie news. But yeah, I don't know. We'll go through this episode. I find myself not writing a whole lot of notes for these episodes in comparison to other TV shows, Penguin, Skeleton Crew, Agatha, Lord of the Rings, because there's not a whole lot that interests me in these episodes. But we'll talk about that. Maybe next episode will be different. I saw the little teaser at the end. It looks like Cersei's gonna show some vision of the Justice League or Justice League members all dying, and very kind of Snyder-esque in a way. In a way, I'm not comparing the two directly. I'm just saying in a way. But anyways, so here we go. Immediately as the episode starts, we're going into a flashback, and I guess you kind of have to when it's a 22-minute episode. And so we already get Sergeant Rock, which I guess in hindsight now is interesting, because we now know that there's going to be a Sergeant Rock movie. I suppose that they obviously didn't cast Daniel Craig at the time, because that guy is not Daniel Craig, I don't think. And so this is where the idea probably came from. James Gunn was writing Creature Commandos, and he was like, wouldn't it be fun if? And then he got a pitch for it, and I'm sure he liked it. So there is that. So we get Sergeant Rock, and I guess that they're building up the Sergeant Rock GI Robot team up. I'm sure he's going to be a part of it, I would assume, right? If you're setting up GI Robot and Sergeant Rock to be best buddies and easy company, then I'm sure that he would be a part of whatever that film looks like. So there's that. Also kind of interesting, they talk about this in the film, or in the show, but it's kind of not explained a whole lot is how they were able to build this advanced AI system in the 40s. I don't know how. I mean, I guess super soldier serum was also made in the 40s, but it feels like artificial intelligence is a step, it's a big leap, right, to make in terms of just where they were in the 40s, but that is what it is. So anyways, then we go back to present day, and the creature commandos with Rick Flag Sr. head back to this, Bride of Frankenstein. Oh my goodness. Bride of Frankenstein castle, and they find them, and I guess the whole point of it was to distract them so that Cersei and the Sons of Themyscira can go and attack the palace. Okay, fine. I like Nina, Nina Mazursky. I think she's probably the most sympathetic character. And even that, I'm like, yeah, but we don't really know anything about you. I'm sure we will. We obviously will, because every single character will get a backstory episode. I think next one's Weasel. So we've gotten the Bride, we've gotten G.I. Robot, who's now dead, and then we will get Nina Mazursky. So I like Nina, for sure. And I thought the friendship that she had with G.I. Robot was cute, enough to warrant her sobbing at the end. I don't know. Maybe we'll see in flashbacks. It almost felt like, by the way, this episode was kind of Book of Boba Fett-esque in a weird way. It's like just flashbacks. I don't know. I hope the entire show is not like this, because it just diminishes what's going on in the present day, especially because these episodes are so short. That's my opinion anyways. But anyways, so Cersei is at the castle, and then now we go back to the flashback and we see Will Magnus. Now we talked about Will Magnus. Alan Tudyk was voicing him. He's one of the 3 characters in Creature Commandos that Alan Tudyk is voicing, and he kind of reminds me of Bolivar Trask in X-Men Days of Future Past in that sense of studying these robots, and Trask obviously building Sentinels. Now I don't have too much of a knowledge of the comics, so Will Magnus, I don't know if this is a comic book thing and then he builds a bunch of robots that are very important to. I don't know. I don't know much about the comics, so you'll have to let me know in the comments if you do know what they were alluding to there. I just know that he was studying G.I. Robot for the AI stuff. And then we head back to present day, and the Sons of Themyscira are chasing Ilana around. It feels, I don't know, this part of the show honestly felt really cartoony, when they were running around and saying dumb one-liners. I know they're supposed to be dumb and how do I put this, ignorant characters, but I don't know. It just felt very cartoony, the whole sequence, to me anyways. And I know it's an animation, it's an animated project, but cartoony in the sense of tone, I guess, which I'm sure that James Gunn kind of likes that tone of almost too goofy, but trying to rein it in at certain points. But yeah, there is that. So then anyways, we go back to a flashback and we meet a guy named Sam Fitzgibbon, who took me a while, but I realized finally that it was Michael Rooker, because of course Michael Rooker is going to be in a James Gunn project. It's also interesting, there's a scene of them watching a live action thing in animation. I always think it's funny when stuff like that happens. And so yeah, I mean, you get the pattern, right? You get that James Gunn is trying to humanize every character. You see where they're coming from. Is it working for G.I. Robot? Am I relating to him in any particular way? No, not really. And yeah, I mean, sure, he kills all the Nazis later in that socialist club, quote unquote socialist club. And he kills all the Sons of Themyscira as well. And yeah, I mean, then Cersei wants to kill Ilana and not really explain why. I'm sure we'll get an explanation in the next episode. And because the whole thing is she's trying to say that she wants to kill Ilana because it will save the universe, and she has some kind of foresight. It really is, in a weird way, now that I'm thinking about it, very similar. And I know it's a trope, so it's not like only DC films have done this, but it just reminded me very much of the whole Snyderverse thing of Lois Lane is the key, and then by not protecting Lois Lane, then you cause Superman to go bad and whatever, and it kind of reminds me of that. We'll see where this goes though later on. And they mutilate her, by the way. That was a rough sequence to watch. She just gets destroyed, or ripped to shreds almost by Weasel and Dr. Phosphorus. But then G.I. Robot is dead, and then the episode ends because Cersei's like, the world's gonna end, and I guess that's where we're going. Guys, I don't know. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if maybe this is just a me thing. Maybe I'm just kind of James Gunn fatigued, if you will. And I don't mean in general. I'm still very much excited for Superman. I just mean in the sense of what James Gunn does, what James Gunn is good at and has just kind of resorted to feels like a strong word, but you know what I mean? I feel like in that sense, right? I feel like maybe I'm getting a little bit tired of that concept, but then again, you could always turn around. I don't hate the series at all. I said the first 2 episodes are fine. I think this episode is right in line with that, and I just, we'll see where we go from here. So guys, let me know what you thought about episode 3 of Creature Commandos. Do you enjoy the show? Do you not enjoy the show? And are you looking forward to what comes next? Let me know in the comments down below.